on what's on. So the chapter is the field and the knower of the field. Kshetra, field. This is like a field of battle. So the whole battle takes place on the Kurukshetra. And Kshetranya, the knower of the field. So what do we mean by the field and the knower of the field? The field is our field of knowledge, what we can know. The knower of the field is the one who's doing the knowing. So this is Gita's introduction to, let me focus and hope I don't disconnect everybody. Can you still all see and hear me?
Yeah.
Great, okay. So this is Gita's introduction to what we call Drik Drishya Viveka. Who can tell me what Drik Drishya Viveka means?
Seer, seen, discrimination.
Exactly. So
Can you repeat that again?
the discrimination between the seer and the seen, as Swamiji used to say. So it's like a game. So do you all see the water glass? Yes? When I use the first person pronoun, you refer to yourself. I am the knower. The water glass is the thing known. I'm not a water glass. Pretty clear, right? I'm the one who sees the water glass. Field, knower of the field. And can you feel the breeze of the fan on your skin? That's another object of cognition. I am the knower. The sensation of the breeze is the known object of awareness, object of cognition. Can you hear the sounds outside in the street? I am the knower. The sounds are the object of awareness. We can go through the 5 outer senses. Anything seen, heard, taste, touched, or smelled is anatman, not self. I am the knower, kshetranya. All those objects are kshetra, field. Any questions about how you do the game? Okay. Now let's go to the body itself.
Sorry, a question about what you were saying. Are feelings Atman or not Atman?
We'll get there. Be patient. Let's go to the body. When you were a child, you had a little body. Then you went through adolescence and your body changed. And you became an adult and your body changed again. Some of us are on the downhill. The body changes again. But have not you been aware of the changes in the body? Take a deep breath and feel the breath in the body. Are you not aware of this in the same way you were aware of the glass or the breeze or the traffic noises? You are not your body. You are the knower of your body. Now, some of you may be involved in doing some branch of yoga where you deal with prana, energy, shakti, kundalini. But if you've been doing various kriyas and dealing with energy, are you not aware of energy? Do you not have a subject object relationship with energy? Those of us who don't have an interest in that, you've done some exercise, you feel really robust, you feel full of vitality. That's your prana. Other times you've stayed up too late or eaten heavy food. I just want to sleep. You know that feeling? Low prana. But are you not aware of the changes in the energy? And if you do martial arts like Aikido, Tai Chi Chuan, that Ki or Chi, it's just the Far Eastern Asian name for the same thing. It's energy. That's all it is. Fang, you do Reiki.
Yes.
So you are not the energy. You are the knower of the energy. That's not it. That's field, not the knower of the field. Now, next layer, feelings, what we call the manomaya kosha in Sanskrit. Sometimes I feel joy, sometimes I feel sorrow, sometimes I'm angry, sometimes I'm peaceful, sometimes I'm enthusiastic, sometimes I'm bored. The feelings are like this palette of an artist, this enormous range of feelings. But you are the knower of your feelings. Happiness doesn't see sadness. Anger doesn't see boredom. I know them. Isn't that your direct experience? You are not your feelings. Feelings are kshetra, field. They are not Atman, the knower of the field. Does that answer your question? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's go to a realm even more subtle. The Vijnanamaya Kosha. This is where thoughts happen. Do the problem 2 + 2. Remember what you had for lunch. Visualize a strawberry. That place is called your intellect. The thoughts go by like your hand in front of your face, like the sound of the traffic. You are not your thoughts. You are the witness. So the question is, who are you? So in Shankara's great text, Viveka Chudamani, after we go through this negation of the 5 koshas, the Shisha, the disciple, says, "Oh, revered Guruji, after I negate everything, there's nothing left. By what instrument then is this self to be known?" Good question. Says, clever are you in your ability to discriminate? Clever here doesn't mean crafty, it means you have a subtle mind. Know the self to be that by which everything is known, but itself will never be known as an object. It's like trying to look at your eyes. No one's ever seen their own eyes. I've never seen my eyes. Therefore, I must not have any. Of course, you know you have eyes because you see. The mind doesn't go there. The senses don't go there. Speech does not go there. What is it that knows the self? We discussed some of this last week. This is another meditation that's a lot of fun. So the world is known by what we call the tripoti, the triple factor. There's a knower, there's a means of knowledge, and some object of knowledge. I am the knower, seeing is the means of knowledge, the glass is an object of knowledge. I am the knower, manas, mind is the means of knowledge, feelings are the object of knowledge. I am the knower, buddhi, intellect is the means of knowledge, thoughts are the object of knowledge. Are you you? Or do you know it? Do you see, hear, taste, touch, or smell yourself? Touch your body. Do you emote yourself? Are you a feeling? A thought? No. Oh, then you must not exist. No, of course I exist. I'm me. How do you know it? The scriptures say the self is its own means of knowledge. This triple factor, knower, knowing, and known, is collapsed. The self is the knower. The self is the means of knowledge, and the self is that which is known. I'm me. It is swayambhu, self-evident. Swayam Jyoti, self-luminous, but never known as an object. But it's not unknown. It's unknown by the intellect. The means of knowledge for knowing the self is the self itself. Great cosmic joke, because you've always had it. When you do ever not the you. So this is what we've been covering so far in this field and knower of the field. Any thoughts about this before we move on?
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
What about babies? Because they don't have mind and they don't have intellect, and they won't get this statement that the means of knowing the self is the self itself. So, but they have a self.
Yes, they do. So babies are in a state of innocence, but because the mind and intellect are not fully formed yet, they have no ego sense. The ego sense actually occurs in the vijnana maya kosha, in that intellectual sheath. And it's the ahankriti, this function in the vijnana maya kosha that attributes to the self the qualities of the not self, primarily the body. That's not fully formed yet in the child. They don't have any scars. Everything goes in the mouth or in the hair. You know, it's if you have you work with little teeny tinies. You work with like really newborns, kids in their first few months at all.
Not few months. They have to be a year old.
Okay, but like in the beginning, their eyes don't even focus. Why should I focus my eyes?
You will feed me anyway.
No, you have a mobile above the crib to teach the child to start to track and focus and things like that. So it's all unformed, but because there's no what we call paroksha jnana, indirect knowledge, meaning knowledge of the scriptures, knowledge from the guru. When ego forms, which it will, there are no tools to keep that from happening, except for those rare individuals who were born into a family of enlightened sages. Sometimes there are a rare few who are raised with no veil. But it's very, very rare. All the rest of us have to work on it. Does that make sense?
So,
Very good question. Another one?
sorry, so it's the socialization of people that contribute to the ahankar, to the
Well, it's very, very deep. I don't know if any of you watch like animal videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
I've got this thing about baby elephants. I just love baby elephants, love to watch them play in the mud and stuff like that. But if you see a baby elephant and its mummy will be getting the grass with her trunk and putting it in her mouth, and baby elephant will do exactly the same thing. You know, mummy elephant will take the mud and go over her back. Baby elephant does exactly the same thing. So this is really deep instinct of imitation, learning from a parent. So it's basically that deepness. It's more than just socialization, although that's a big part of it. Does that make sense? So what we need to do is have a conscious regaining of the innocence of children. The Master Jesus had a very interesting statement. He said, "Suffer little children to come unto me." That's old-timey language. It means allow the children to come to me. For of them is the kingdom of heaven. That doesn't mean when you go to heaven, everybody's a 2-year-old. It means that wonderful innocence. So a Jivan Mukti is able to gain that kind of innocence.
So what is a Jivan Mukti?
Liberated soul.
Okay.
Person who's liberated while they're alive. So what we've been dealing with is, what is kshetra, field, if it has a beginning and an end, if it occurs in time and space, if it's in the gross world of objects or the subtle world of thoughts and feelings, if it's confined to time, past, present, or future, if it's in the waking, dream, or deep sleep state, most importantly, if it can be known as an object, that isn't it. And if your goal is self-realization, you take on the meditation, neti. Who's heard that before? What's it mean?
Not this, not this.
Yes. Negate everything that's knowable. And what's left? Well, what's there? We get phrases like nirupaham, without any form. Nirmalam, without any dirt, without any taint. Achalam, it never moves. Ajati, it is unborn. Amritam, it never dies. Our job is in meditation, quiet in the mind, and practice having what I call the radical reversal of the attentive faculty. Hang with the question, who am I? See if you can notice or infer or get the sense. What is my essential nature? Who am I? So that's kind of brought us up to where we are now. Next verse, number 6, is that where we are, sweetheart?
Yeah, and it's 2 verses together.
2 verses together, 6 and 7.
Mahabhutanyamantaro buddhirvyaktama evacha indriyani dashaikam cha pancachendriya yoga pancachendriya gochara ichha dvesha sukham dukkham sanghatashchetana dhriti etat kshetram samasena savikara mudahritam. The great elements, egoism, intellect, and also the unmanifested Mula Prakriti, the 10 senses and the one, the mind, and the 5 objects of the senses, desire, hatred, pleasure, pain, aggregate body, intelligence, fortitude. This Kshetra has been thus briefly described with its modifications.
So it doesn't sound too brief to me, but let's take each one of these and it will go through much of what we talked about at the beginning of the class and take each one of these ideas. So the first one was the Tanmatras, right?
The great elements,
Mahabhutani. Same thing as the Tanmatras. So the 5 elements are earth, air, fire, water, and space or ether. I had a lot of trouble with this when I first studied Gita because I had a little bit of a science background. You know, earth is not an element. You know, helium is an element, hydrogen is an element, argon is an element, not earth or air. Anybody ever have trouble with that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's not what they're talking about. The Mahabhutani, the great elements, or the Tanmatras, they're also called that, have to do with yoga's philosophy of perception. Let me explain it and give you an example. Everybody look at the coffee table. Sorry, you Zoomies, you can't do that. So what's the coffee table made of? Wood, it's rosewood. What's wood made of?
Trees.
Well, let's get more elemental.
Carbon.
Carbon, that's good. Carbon's made of atoms, yeah. That's what we would say in our material sense is what the coffee table is made of. But what if you dreamt that you were here in my living room and you saw the coffee table in my dream living room? What would the coffee table be made of? Well, it's just imagination. But what makes the dream coffee table different than the dream chair? They're both imagination. So, earth is something's smellability. You live in an agrarian society and people till the earth. You can smell the overturned fresh earth. Any of you like to garden? It's wonderful, tilled earth. Air is something, it's touchability. Fire is something's seeability. Water is its tasteability. And space, sound. So these 5 subtle elements, these Mahabhutani, undergo a process which is called the Pancha Karana, the 5-fold division and subsequent recombination of the subtle elements to make up the things in the gross world. What do we mean? So every object in the dream that we see is some combination and mixture of those perceptions. Don't lick the salsa off the coffee table. I know you can just imagine you can taste it. Yoga says this waking state world is like a dream, meaning it is consciousness appearing as the world of name and form. I had a dream this morning. I dreamt that I had a paper that I had to do, and I had loaned my laptop to my friend Mauricio. And I had this funny instrument that I could type on. And I was really pissed at Mauricio because he had borrowed my laptop and then flown off to India. Weird dreams. But this machine, it doesn't exist. I don't know what it was. I was really mad that I was going to have to type this damn paper on this little machine. But there was cause and effect in the dream. But upon awakening, I go, my God, what a weird dream. I was thinking about my friend Mauricio. He actually is in India, but he didn't take my laptop. But the whole point is, in the dream, I create a world of cause and effect. It seemed to be just an illusion when I wake up. In this waking state world, of course, we perceive cause and effect. Somebody cut down trees. Somebody made the table. Somebody finished it. We turn on the news and there's COVID. You know, you think about politics in India. All this cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. And we get all upset about it. But what if you just woke up and you said, oh my gosh, all of that was just a very long and vivid dream. So, we've talked about the buddhi, the intellect. This little dude made of ivory, what do we call him?
Buddha,
What does Buddha mean?
enlightened one.
Means awake. He woke up from being awake. That's the invitation. So the invitation is just begin to be open to the idea that this is like a dream. It's the Matrix. I haven't seen that movie yet. You don't have to believe it. Just be open to it. So, anything that is perceivable is comprised of the Mahabhutani. Anything in the gross world of objects is Kshetra, field. Next idea.
Egoism.
Oh, yes. What is this? And what word does he use, Ahankriti?
Ahankara.
Ahankara. Okay, so this is a compound word in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, aham. What's aham mean? It's just the first person pronoun. Kara or kriti comes from the root kri, which means to make or to do. So, ahankara is the function in the Vijnanamaya kosha, the subtlest part of the intellect, where I have I maker thoughts. I'm tall, I'm short, I'm young, I'm old, I'm male, I'm female, I'm gay, I'm straight, I'm good, I'm bad, I'm successful, I'm a failure, I'm loved, people don't like me. All of these are I am, and then you fill in the blank. That constant process going on in the subtle intellect is called ahankara. It is such a OCD experience for everybody that it just keeps going on and repeats and different ideas, different thoughts. And it's almost like a hypnotic trance. And it makes me believe I'm a person, meaning I am my body mostly. That is the fruit of spiritual ignorance. What is ahankara? What is egoism? When I attribute to the self the qualities of the not self. I attribute to the knower the qualities of the known. Now, one of Shankara's most famous examples to explain ahankara. He was a Malayali. He was from Kerala. And when I was in the little village of Pepani at Adi Shankar and Elian, this is going back to 1994, you'd see the women from the village and they'd have these enormous jars, about 3-4 feet tall. And they didn't touch them at all. They just put them on their heads and they'd yak, go down to the tank, fill them with water, bring them back up to Shankara's mother's house. This is where the Adi Shankar is now. And it has these big, long porticos. So I always imagine Shankara is teaching, giving satsang there in the evening, and there's half a dozen jars of water because it's hot. You know, I think in Kerala they have 3 seasons, hot, hotter, and hottest. So you have to imagine that you've got these half a dozen jars of water, and it happens to be a full moon night. So Shankara would say, look in the jars. Do you see 6 moons in the jars? So the jar is like the physical body. The water in the jar is like the mind and intellect. And the reflected moon in the jar is like ego. And the term that he uses is chit chaya. Chaya in Hindi means shadow, but in Sanskrit it means reflection or shadow. So I can just imagine him saying, now, do you see the 6 moons in the jars? Take his hand and he would go, oh, I've broken the moon. Now, whether the water is still or whether the water is rippled, has it affected the moon? Yourself is like the moon. This ahankara is chit chaya. It's the reflection of consciousness caught in the web of thoughts. And when the mind ripples and goes up and down, I think I go up and down. Oh, I am so sad. How could they have said that to me? And then the solution is just stop the mind for a moment. And introvert your attention. Listen to the traffic if you can. So if you can notice who hears it, what hears it. It's just being heard. Now let's think an auspicious thought. I'm a wonderful person. Did that change the space of consciousness? I'm a terrible person. Did that change the space of pure awareness? All of those are ego thoughts, the ahankara. And they are objects of awareness. Who here perhaps got triggered this week and maybe felt kind of bad about yourself? Did you know it?
Did I know?
Did you know it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Felt crappy, didn't it? Mm-hmm. But you knew it.
Yeah.
It never really touched you. It was a mind state. But in that mind state is, I am, fill in the blank. You see it? So part of our job here is to discriminate between the self and the idea of self. Between aham and ahankara. They are not the same. Now, this is just a hypothesis right now. You need to prove or disprove this in the laboratory of your own experience. So the slogan I like to give, if I think I'm a person, I'm deluded. And if I'm in that state, my mind is going to present to me some project in order to be okay. And Vedanta says, drop the struggler. Drop your identification with ahankara. How? Cool thing, we talked about chit chaya, meaning both reflection and shadow. What happens when you shine a light on a shadow? Disappears. If you have this introversion of attention and go looking for this person, it falls. What do you find? Find the real self. Brahmasmi. So this ahankara is kshetra, not self. Next idea.
Intellect.
Buddhi, my thoughts. Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. Obviously, he never meditated. Quit thinking and see if you disappear. Or at least you can get a gap between your thoughts. So what do we do with these thoughts? You want to take on the attitude of the witness, what we call sakshi bhava. All of these, there's a practice involved. So it's as if you're sitting on the bank of a river and the river's going by. You see all the flotsam and the jetsam and the eddies and the ships and everything, but you are sthita, you are still sitting on the bank. So if you ever give yourself the great gift of a meditation retreat, after a while you see that thoughts just go by. They just go by. They have a beginning and again. They're not permanent. Swamiji used to say the way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. Stay in the viewpoint of the witness. Whether it's a virtuous thought or a vicious thought. Listen carefully. At this level of practice, yoga is not a program of self-improvement. It is a program of self-abandonment. Our earlier stages of practice, by all means, try to be a good person. We get to this level of practice now, what we want to do is get out. We want to abandon any personal sense of self. All these thoughts, virtuous or vicious, I am none of them. Now, at the deepest level, can you come to the place where you don't take your own thoughts seriously? Just thoughts. Second chapter, Krishna says, when the yogi's mind stands sthita, still, in the presence of what is heard and what is not heard. Steady wisdom. Any questions about this? Next idea.
Also the unmanifested Mula Prakriti.
Okay, this is a little more difficult to understand. Mula Prakriti, Mula means like the root. Prakriti means the stuff of nature. It's also called it the avyaktaha, the unmanifest. So let's go back to our journey that we did before we got into the scripture. I am not any of the objects of perception. I'm not the physical body. The technical term for that is annamaya kosha. Annam means cooked rice. It's the food tube. You consume a mountain of food and you produce a mountain of food. And in the end, you are food for worms. The next level in, we talked about energy. That's called the pranamaya kosha, the vital energy sheath. Next level in was feelings, judgments, the manomaya kosha, the mental sheath. And subtler than that is the vijnanamaya kosha, which we've been talking about, the intellectual sheath, which has the organs of perception, buddhi intellect, and ahankriti, ahankara. There is the sheath more subtle than that, which is called the anandamaya kosha, the bliss sheath. We experience the bliss sheath in two ways. The first is when we satisfy a desire. I get my little prayer stone. This is a stand-in for whatever it is that I think is desirable. And desire and object of desire become one. The point of pleasure. For a moment, my mind has ceased. The technical term is Viksheva Shakti. It's projecting power. It's agitating power. It's come home. Feels good. But in my ignorance, because I don't know that it's a kiss of the bliss of myself, I think it's in the object. He is so wonderful. That food is so wonderful. That house is so wonderful. That job is so wonderful. Oh, this jewelry is so wonderful. All that's happened is whatever the object is, when desire and object of desire become one, it stops my mind. Now, the anandamaya kosha experienced at the satisfaction of a desire will vary in intensity and duration, depending on how much I wanted the object and how thoroughly I got it. I was talking with a friend of mine who was aware of a condominium that was for sale next to one of his best friends. He wants to downsize out of his house and get a condo. So he went over today and looked at it. Floor plan's right, but it doesn't have a balcony and a patio like his friend Diane's. Didn't quite meet his picture. He doesn't know he wants it. Doesn't know he wants to spend the money. All that kind of stuff. We get that experience all the time. All the time. Now, the other place where we experience the anandamaya kosha is deep sleep. Everybody loves deep sleep. We especially love it if our waking state life is problematic. Or if you've got a lot of stress in your life and you can't get to sleep. Oh, that's terrible. Now, one of my favorite states is called Vasanananda, the bliss of the state of vasana. I call it snooze alarm bliss. So you're sound asleep. In deep sleep, no experience. The mind is all folded up into the avyaktaha, the unmanifest that we've been talking about. The Anandamaya Kosha is the seed form of the mind. Still there. It's just all in its seed form. You know, you wake up and it's Sunday morning, you don't have to do anything. Wake up. Or the alarm goes off. Hit the snooze alarm. Not quite yet, another 10 minutes. Punch the pillow. Oh, you know that state? How delicious it is. What object is causing the pleasure of that? What object? There isn't one. There's just enough mind there to consciously enjoy it. And then what happens? Oh, I told so-and-so that I would meet them for lunch. Oh, if I'm going to do that, then I need to wash some clothes so I have something to wear. Oh, I should probably look at those emails from work because I have to deal with that before Monday. Oh, I don't know where I'm going to get the money to pay for blah, blah. You know that state? What's happened? The mind with its desires and attachments has returned. And the more it returns, then the bliss just disappears like the morning fog in the sun. Just disappears. Just disappears. So in deep sleep, we love it. Everybody loves it. And you can't even know you love it. You have to wait till you wake up and say, oh, I must have slept so soundly, I don't remember a thing. Now, you are not unconscious in deep sleep. You are not unconscious. You are conscious of avyaktaha, the unmanifest. And I can prove it to you. First of all, can you see that there's a phone in my hand? Can you see that there's no phone in my hand? So you can be aware of the presence of something, and you can be aware of the absence of something. Deep sleep is not like being blind. Deep sleep is like seeing darkness. Everybody close your eyes. If I move the furniture around, you can't tell. You're not blind. You are seeing the back of your eyelids. Open your eyes. If you were blind, you open your eyes, you wouldn't see anything. See? Your sight is still there, but you see darkness. So the mind is folded up in deep sleep, but you are not unconscious. Here's another way to prove it. It's through what we call the law of memory. The rememberer and the experiencer must be the same entity. Did you have dinner this evening? Yes?
Yes,
You remember it?
yes.
Did I have dinner this evening?
I don't know.
Why not?
I didn't see it.
You were not there. You cannot remember something you haven't experienced. Did you sleep well last night? Sure.
Yeah.
Did I sleep well last night? You don't know. The fact that you can remember it means you must have been there to experience it. So I am knowing the mind in its seed form. Now, why do we call it mula, seed, the root or seed? The reason is because the unmanifested seeds of the mind are still there. So Amini here is a speech therapist. What do you do here?
I work at a startup.
You work in a startup. So when you go to sleep, like last night, you don't wake up this morning as a speech therapist. And you don't wake up working for a startup. So the seeds of the mind, which we build day by day, are in their seed form. But if the two of you were sound asleep on the floor here in my living room, I couldn't tell which one is the speech therapist and the other one who's working for a startup. And what's your experience of deep sleep? Nothing. What's your experience of deep sleep? Nothing. But there's something there in its bija form, seed form, mula, root form. You see that? Otherwise, you'd wake up with a whole different life. So that's why we call it the unmanifest, or the, what was the word that he used? Mula?
Mula Prakriti.
Mula Prakriti. Prakriti just means the stuff of nature. The seed of all nature is there in the unmanifest. Now, even the avyaktaha, the unmanifest, even the anandamaya kosha, same thing. Even your vasanas, same thing. Even the karana sharira, the causal body, same thing, is an object of awareness.
Jim, I have a question.
Yes, please.
This Anandamaya Kosha sort of confuses me a little bit. So it seems to me that the sense of I arises in the Vijnanamaya Kosha. This is what you were explaining earlier.
No,
that,
the ego sense arises.
yes, sorry. Yes, I meant the small I. Sorry. Yes, the ego sense arises in the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So it seems to me that, taking a step back from there, the ego sense is not even there. So then who is there to experience the bliss?
The self is the knower of all the fields. So you have no ego in deep sleep. You cannot see the world. You have no personal sense of I.
But can that be then called an experience? Because for the experience to arise, the ego sense needs to arise, is it not?
Are you sure of that?
I'm asking, I don't know.
Why do we stay with your direct experience? So in a sense, you're right. When we experience an object in the phenomenal world, the individual sense of self and our experience of the phenomenal world in the waking state arise together. You are absolutely right. There, the Buddhists use the word dependent origination. I like that. But don't get caught up in the technical words. The whole point I'm getting at here is the unmanifest, the mula prakriti that Gita is talking about is deep sleep. It's the anandamaya kosha. And it is not you. You know it. You see it come and go. What time do you usually go to bed?
10.
What time?
10:30.
10 o'clock. Okay. So at 10 o'clock, you are aware of the waking state. By midnight, you're gone. I shouldn't use that word. Your mind is gone in deep sleep. Then in the morning, you wake up. You go, oh, I slept so soundly. Now I'm aware of the waking state. I have no idea what happened. Time was gone. But you know that your mind was folded up and gone. So something was aware of it, not the ego. Put it on the shelf for now, Shweta.
Okay, thanks.
Don't worry about the Anandamaya kosha. Nobody ever got enlightened in deep sleep. It's not that important. All right. So the avyakta, the mula prakriti. What's the next idea?
The 10 senses and the mind.
Okay. In yoga, we don't have 5 senses. We've got 10. We have the jnana indriyas, sometimes called the buddhi indriyas, the organs of knowledge, and the karma indriyas, the organs of action. The organs of knowledge are eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Organs of action, hands, feet, tongue, anus, and genitals. Way I remember them, the organs of knowledge is data in, organs of knowledge is, action is energy out. So those senses, sense perceptions, what they sense, all of it is material stuff. So many of you know I have macular degeneration. I'm legally blind. When I was young, I could see very well. And I knew it. Now I don't see very well. And I know it. I think a couple of you have had COVID. I know. Uma, didn't you get COVID when you were in India?
Yes,
Did you lose your sense of taste?
yes,
Okay. Is it back?
yes.
Oh, thank God. So you knew when you had a sense of taste? You knew when you did not have a sense of taste. Now you know that your sense of taste is back.
Yes.
Object of awareness. See that? So you are not the 10 senses. Next idea.
Jim, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Like the 10 senses and the 5 perceptions seem very similar.
When you say 5 perceptions, I'm not sure what you
The
mean.
elements.
The whole phenomenon, the whole theory of the 5 elements is rooted in the notion of perception itself. You're absolutely right. Yes. Yes.
Because we and the 5 the organs of the data, they seem very similar to like the perception ones, which are like
They are just gross and subtle forms of the same thing.
I see. Okay.
And then of course you can kind of trip out on this. So like sharks have those little pits on their nose. I can't remember what they're called. Does anybody remember?
Gills?
No, they're not gills. They sense electromagnetic currents in the bodies of living creatures. So if you ever go on YouTube and watch a video of a hammerhead shark, for example, it's got this great big long head. It's like it senses electromagnetism and it goes scanning along the bottom of the ocean. It's not seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, or smelling the crabs. It's sensing the electricity in their nervous system. But it senses one. Who knows? And maybe the people on Alpha Centauri have even other senses. Who knows? This is just what humans have. All right. So we have that 10
The 10
sense
senses.
organs.
The mind and the 5 objects of the senses.
And here we have mind, manas. We talked about that in our preparatory talk. The mind is the world is the mind. All the thoughts, feelings, the judgments, the evaluations we make, all of that. We know them as objects of awareness. And then what was the other one? This,
5 objects of the senses.
yeah, things that are seen, heard, taste, touched, or smelled. We've gone into that. Next idea.
There's a whole verse that we haven't gotten to yet. So desire, hatred, pleasure, pain.
Okay, so what this is about is it's 8 o'clock. So we'll take this next verse. This is 7, right?
Yeah.
And we did, this is very, very dense teaching here. So what I want to leave you with for now is one of the most important meditations we have in this work. So in the qualifications of a fit student that Shankara lists, the first one is Viveka. Brahma Satyam Jagan Nitye Yeti Rupa Vinishchayaha Soyam Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha Samudaritaha. Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world, the Jagat, Nitya, illusion. You can take that at a lot of levels. Start with it's temporary. You can start, then go on to it is always objectively known. Ultimately, we're going to find out it's just imagination. This is known as Nitya Anitya Viveka, the discrimination between the real and the unreal. So this is our practice. If it has a beginning and an end, if it occurs in time and space, if it has qualities and characteristics, if it's an object, if it's an emotion, if it's a thought, if it's the personal sense of self, that isn't it. Let it go. Who am I? I'm the witnessing consciousness by which all this is known. And then as you move through your day, keep checking yourself out. See if in fact you change, you alter, you become. Oh, Jim, who was in meditation this morning and myself was pink. Pink. Can you see pink? That's not it. Oh, Jim, I think I've realized yourself. And these waves of ecstasy and gold white light. Oh, I'm glad you had that nice experience. Did it have a beginning and an end? Yes. Did it have qualities and characteristics? Yes. Was it an objectively known experience? Yes. As nice as it was. That's not it. But Jim, my crown chakra is starting to open. It's all buzzy. I can feel it now. My kundalini is going up and down and up and down. Oh, it's very wonderful. Did it have a beginning and an end? Yes. Does it have qualities and characteristics? Yes. Does it occur in time and space? Yes. Did you know it? Not self. Drop it. Oh, but I thought it was important. Drop it. All right. That's your homework. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Namaha. Hari